In October 2017, I started the Christmas Volunteer Recovery Programme. Every year I ask for a volunteer to start a programme with myself free of charge, so that every year someone can give themselves the greatest gift of all, a Christmas recovery. Last year, Deborah Carey was my volunteer, and after 8 short weeks, she made a full recovery from fibromyalgia. Later that year, I also worked with Deb's oldest daughter, who also made a full recovery. 1 year on, and Deb's is doing great. She even started her own business. This year, for 2018, I wanted to focus a little more on poor mobility. So, on the 12th of October, I put out a volunteer post across my social media asking for volunteers who were using mobility aids such as wheelchairs, crutches and sticks. And after interviewing several people, I ended up with 2 volunteers I was certain were ready to put the hard work in and push through the arduous few weeks ahead that I had planned for them and change their lives forever. It is the 21st of December. This is my last day for this year working. A little bit sad because it's the end of another year, although there's been some fantastic results over the years. Kind of makes me sad that this year's finished now, but then also great that a new chapter begins of, I suppose, my book. I am just soaking in the views for pretty much what is going to be the last time at the current studio, because I am again moving. This is going to be the 5th one, I think, and I hope the last. I do love this studio because it overlooks the sea, which is fantastic. And the building's an old 1904 building, so it's been here for a while, and everything's just sturdy, and it's a good old kind of grade listed building. Round about 9 weeks ago, I asked for a volunteer for the Christmas Volunteer Programme, which I do every year. Over the last 9 weeks, it has been absolutely incredible. There has been some phenomenal changes in the volunteers, not just phenomenal, but absolutely life-changing. So I thought, for the purpose of this mini documentary, I'm going to talk to you throughout the documentary from now, a few days before Christmas. There's not obviously going to be enough time to go through the exact mechanisms, but I wanted to kind of show you, instead of last year's documentary where it was more from the person's kind of video diaries and how they were experiencing things, I wanted to kind of do a bit more filming in the studio so you guys at home can see more what's involved when I'm working with people. Because remember, what I do with people isn't something I do to them or something they do. It's something we do. It's a journey. It's using movement as a catalyst, really, for change. So I'm going to talk to you throughout this mini documentary from now, a few days before Christmas. I'm going to voice over a lot, and there's a lot of footage in the film. So really what's left now is to let you meet the volunteers. The first volunteer is Courtney, 15 years old, Chiari malformation, and at the moment in a wheelchair, unable to walk. So let's get started. Cool. After my first meeting with Courtney, I knew this wasn't going to be straightforward, and she was more than likely going to keep me on my toes. This wasn't the usual fibromyalgia or hypermobility case, wherein we can re-establish connections within an hour or two, and by the end of the week be back to full strength, walking again, unaided and strong. The right foot did not lift at all, there was no reflex in the left foot, she could not weight bear for more than a minute, and she was tiring very quickly. I have seen this a few times, and it is never straightforward. Ever. Little Courtney was going to be a tough one, but if nothing else, she was determined to get back to her normal self, and as long as I've done this job, that is the single most powerful thing for recovery.
In December 2016, I was trampolining with my chair friends, and after doing a jump, I had run all funny and nearly passed out, and everyone thought I had just not eaten, so I got some food. After having something to eat, I felt okay, but things started to get worse after that. As the weeks and months went on, I started getting really bad head pains, shooting pains from the back to the front, and a really tense headache. I was passing out every day, and I kept going back and forward from the doctors, and no one knew what was going on. I started passing out at school, and the teachers had to put us in the recovery position. I was missing school. I was missing days at school.
How come they put you in the recovery position?
They lays on the floor and, I don't know, lifting my legs up or something.
What for?
Because I felt like I was going to pass out, and I passed out once in my history class.
Oh. So school was affected quite a lot?
Yeah, a lot, yeah.
So did you end up missing a lot of school?
Yeah.
So after you've been to the doctors and things have kept getting worse, what happened then?
They had referred us to the hospital.
We went to the hospital for an MRI scan for Courtney, which showed that Courtney's brain was lower than it should be, but because they only MRI'd the bottom of her brain and her neck, they couldn't see why it was lower than it should be. So she was being sent for a new MRI scan, which was when the weakness came in her right arm. Then she was sent for an emergency MRI scan, which showed she had the Chiari malformation, which was a shock. No, like, we didn't know what it was, we didn't know what was going on, and I explained it that our brain was just lower than it should be, and that we were getting referred straight to a neurosurgeon to speak with him about it, because it wasn't really her speciality. So we got referred there and literally got an appointment within like 4 days, I think it was. So we went to see the neurosurgeon and spoke a bit about the condition, and he said he wasn't sure if all the symptoms Courtney was having was to do with the Chiari, but obviously because she really was not very good at all, he talked a bit about surgery and what he could do, and basically for us to decide whether to go ahead with it or not. So we went home and obviously researched a bit about it, spoke to a few more doctors. I rang a neurologist and we spoke to them about it. And just as the couple of weeks were going on, Courtney just literally every day was in pain. She couldn't go to school. She even started actually not being able to go to the toilet and stuff, didn't you?
So in 2017 you had the decompression surgery.
Yeah.
What happened when you woke up? Was it a success? Did it work?
When she first woke up, she said she felt a bit better, like when she woke up properly, and then just over the next few hours she started getting like really, really bad head pains, like rushing head pains. It was like, I think for about 8 days she was constantly crying in pain. It felt like she was in labour in her head. That's the only way I can explain it, really. She was just waking up every couple of minutes just screaming in pain. Then after 8 days she was given some steroids and they sort of helped her, and she just literally was like back to Courtney before surgery. She said that the weakness in her arm was gone, the dizziness was totally gone. She was still a bit sickly from the surgery, but our pain score was a 3. It had never been a 3 for a whole year, so we all thought it was really good.
After I was discharged from hospital, the dizziness started to subside, but I was still getting really bad head pains, shooting pains still, daily headaches. Just really not feeling good. Then the weakness started in my legs. I used to have to use my mum's arm to go around the shop and just walk to the car.
So how did you end up in the wheelchair?
In February, after my surgery, I started getting shooting pains coming down the stairs, and like I just sat down on the settee, just like hoping it would ease off. And as soon as I tried to stand up, I just couldn't like stand up at all. I couldn't pick my feet up off the floor, and I couldn't feel my right foot at all.
I struggled to get Courtney to bed that night, but I managed to get her up the stairs on her bum, I think, shuffling. The next morning when she woke up, she still literally couldn't get it out of the bed. She couldn't stand up on her own, she couldn't walk. So I took her straight to the hospital. At the hospital we were told that it was nothing to do with her Chiari, that it was nothing to do with her surgery, and that no one knew why she was having these symptoms. She was basically left on a ward for 2 days, no one even bothered to come and see her. Then her neurologist came to see her on the ward. I explained why I were waiting for these tests that hadn't been done. Nothing had been done. He said that the MRI scans that they had already done were all clear and fine, that he thought Courtney had some sort of anxiety and that's why she couldn't walk. So basically told us that we needed to do a physio rehabilitation programme, and it would take about 6 weeks and Courtney would walk out of it. So that's what we've done. We were still in the hospital 3.5 months later. then I decided to discharge Courtney because I just couldn't live in that hospital any longer, and she was making really, really slight improvements. Nothing was improving really. So we decided to make a bedroom up downstairs in our home and bring her home and hope that she would improve with community physio and obviously herself working hard and me pushing her.
8 months later there was only minor improvement and Courtney's mobility was only getting worse. Before we could get started, I had to assess Courtney. I had to assign and go through the foundation work that I needed her to do at home with her mum. You wouldn't build a house on sand, and you definitely can't build a recovery on a weakened foundation. So for the physical, and in many ways psychological pillars to her foundation, Courtney needed to do some specific movements at home. Exercises like climbs and bridges are by far the biggest waste of time. They just simply are not transferable. It's kind of similar to wanting to get really good on the guitar, so you practice on the piano. They are essentially both instruments, and they both play music. It's just one doesn't transfer very well to playing the other. Courtney needed specific, individual, structured, and transferable to the way we actually walk kind of movements, not some generic print-off that she had been following for the past 8 months. As you can see, even the most basic of the foundation movements were incredibly taxing for poor Courtney. That left hip would simply not contract hard enough to lift and support the other side, which, when it comes to walking, is vital, as it creates clearance room for the leg to swing through. If we were going to get Courtney walking, then this, along with 1 or 2 other things, were going to be our first priority.
Hi, my name's Eve. I'm 37 years old. As a bit of background, I fell ill in 2007 and ended up in hospital for a few weeks with a major infection. I came out of hospital and shortly after started to feel quite a lot of pain in my legs. Went to my GP, he suggested it might be fibromyalgia, but we had to do a raft of tests first. As the tests were going on, the pain moved to my rib cage and round to my back and was constant. The test became more and more invasive and I was given 20 plus tablets a day. The fatigues, was just getting worse and worse. Depression, anxiety, all of the usual that follow when you're in pain 24/7. In 2015, I gave up all my medication to try and focus on other ways to get better. I had the support, full support of all of my family, my husband, my stepsons, and I have got so far. I've moved on from a wheelchair. I still use a stick, but I feel really proud of myself. And mentally, I felt strong enough to reach out to Adam, the Fibro guy. I met Adam last week and today will be my first session with him. He gave me some homework, which was cold showers for 3 mornings a week. He said if I can get through that, then I can get through anything. I have been doing the cold showers. They're horrific, I won't lie. But actually, when I finish my shower, I feel invigorated. I feel, wow, I did something that if you ask anyone that knows me, I would never be able to do. And also I've noticed that my tiredness, my fatigue hasn't kicked in as early in the day as it normally does when I have a cold shower. So I'm probably getting tired sort of mid to late afternoon, whereas before it would be a mid-morning thing. So my plan is to keep those up. I will do another video once I've seen Adam for my first session. So I've got a long drive ahead of me, but I'm feeling really positive and I know that this is going to only do good for me and my family. See you.
So I have just met Eve for the first time. She's gonna be travelling up from Wales once a week, but she's gonna stay in a hotel overnight. If she's prepared to travel up from Wales just for the sessions, she's gonna do really, really, really well. After having a look at her, kind of watching her move, seeing what she's like walking wise, I'm pretty sure that stick will be gone end of the first session, if not, definitely the second. I also think probably by about week 6, week 7, full recovery if everything goes to plan, which it should do. That there's no real, I don't really have any concerns. So yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think 8 weeks, 7 weeks, 7, 8 weeks, full recovery. No more pain, no more fatigue, just back to normal, back to pre-fibro days. So yeah, I'm looking happy. Yeah, I think she's a lot like Deborah from last year's volunteer project in a way. She's been ill a long time. It takes a while to restore kind of normality back. So yeah, happy with that. There is no such thing as working with fibromyalgia. It's not a disease, it's a label. But in recent years it has almost become some kind of culturally adopted disease. I'm not working with fibromyalgia, that's just a word. I am, however, working with 37-year-old Eve, who is her own person, and as such has her own set of beliefs, opinions, fears, limitations, expectations, to name but just a few. And years ago consultations were very physical, but the longer I did this job, the more I realised that the biological aspects that help to influence a person's pain experience were just one part. So these days I normally spend a good hour or so just getting to know the person I'm going to be working with. One small change many years ago was probably one of the most important changes I've ever made when it comes to working with people with chronic pain, and especially in speeding up their recovery. As I said before, I'm only going to cover a few things in the studio as to keep the length of the film down. However, I will be picking 1 or 2 parts from each session that I feel is important for you watching at home. After I had talked to Eve and she had shared a history, I felt like I had a good anchor point to work from. Eve, like many diagnosed with fibromyalgia, did not feel steady enough on her own 2 feet to walk unaided. She also felt she needed the stick to deal with the back pain that would start after walking after a short while. Eve believed, and had been told by a few professionals, that her back was weak. She'd been told to be very careful with it, and pain over the years had done what pain is designed to do. It protected her. Over a few years, her brain had completely reconditioned her to be extremely careful, and if she tried to do anything new or anything that would exert her, it would condition her more, using pain. I felt addressing this would be a good place to start with Eve. So I went through a few movements with Eve, I explained a few things, and within an hour, just like I had guessed initially, she didn't need the stick. She felt confident. She knew why she was using it, and she knew she didn't need it. I'm not a fan of sticks, per se. I feel they produce more fatigue and more problems than they're actually addressing. And when you lose any kind of angular momentum from the arms, this affects your pelvis and your thorax ability to counter-rotate, and as such, you lose the momentum that this gives. Imagine if you were to take somebody fit and healthy from the general population, and you made them go hiking for 4 or 5 hours. More than likely, for the most majority of the general population, they would be okay. A little bit tired, but nothing too great. However, if you were to take the same person, and instead of allowing them to go hiking, you force them to walk around a shopping mall, or a museum or an art gallery for 4 or 5 hours, you would have a very different story at the end of that. They would be tired, their feet would hurt, they'd probably have a slight headache, maybe a little bit of lower back twinge. This is essentially because when you lose that ability to counter-rotate, you lose the ability to create momentum when you walk. I call it museum walking. And what happens is when people experience things like low back pain, they do something called mechanically couple. Their ribs and their pelvis lock together. They reduce the ability to rotate the spine, and essentially it protects the back. So with Eve, what we really need to do and focus on first is to allow her to actually counter-rotate when she walks, to feel freer, more relaxed, and actually be able to produce almost free energy when she walks, instead of it being very laboured as it is at the moment and kind of more expensive. This is the easiest session. Courtney's second session was a tough one for her. As you can see, it looks like a pretty hard exercise, and it's quite hard to get the right mechanics of it, and indeed get things that you need to be moving. Obviously, with Courtney's right foot not being able to lift off the floor and the reflex in her left foot not being able to clear the floor when she walks, she was going to struggle with this from the start. I had hoped we might have been able to sneak it in a little bit. However, it was way too hard for her, so I was forced to regress this to an easier exercise. But that's the way it goes. Things are never straightforward. But all in all, pretty good session for her first proper session. My main aim for Eve this session was to get her to actually use her back without it causing pain, without her freaking out and entering full-on protection mode. Essentially, everybody has a little, well, I call it the book of life, or the encyclopedia of life. Imagine there's a little metaphorical book inside your head. Essentially, what it does is it's your reference point. It's the book you use to figure out what to do with information coming into the brain. Remember, we don't really do anything to bodies, we do it to brains. So if, say, Eve goes to bend over to pick up, say, a heavy kettlebell, and she takes that information in, and her brain processes that information, it will use context, it will use who she's with, what she's doing, why she's doing it, can it hurt her, what will happen if it goes wrong, and she'll use all these different what ifs and past experiences and things like that to decide on the best possible output to keep Eve safe. Pain is just another protection mechanism. At the end of the day, if she's constantly being told, like she has, that her back's weak, then when she takes the information in and registers how heavy the actual kettlebell is, then there's a pretty good chance that her brain's going to freak out and it's going to kick out a load of pain, and she's going to stop doing what it is she's doing, i.e. lifting up the kettlebell. So there's really only two things we can do. We can give her inputs, or we can use movement as a catalyst to give her an input to reinforce actually her back's pretty strong. But before we do that, we want to kind of dismantle and break down all the old beliefs in that book that her back's weak. All the beliefs that have been put there from all the different health professionals who've told her she's osteoarthritis of the spine, and that her core's weak or her disc slipped, and all the other kind of horrific nocebo that seems to be about these days. But all in all, Eve did really, really well for her first session, and I was pretty happy that the fact I could see she was starting to understand that she wasn't damaged, she was just protected. Three weeks after first meeting Eve and Courtney, we were really starting to get somewhere. Eve was doing fantastic. We were managing to load her legs up and down on the stairs. She was going down the stairs without fear. She hadn't even mentioned back pain, and when I asked her a couple of days from when this video was first shot, she'd completely forgotten about it. Again, you don't get a sign to say, oh hey, just to let you know, we're not going to bother producing back pain anymore. It just goes. You forget. But all in all, Eve was doing fantastic. We were managing to get a good 20-minute walk on the odd session, which, considering she was on a walking stick when I first met her, couldn't walk for more than 100 meters without back pain. She was now up and down stairs, moving freely, more importantly, without the back pain. Courtney was doing absolutely fantastic as well. As you can see from the footage, she was a little bit more steady, her hips were starting to stabilise, and the reflex was slowly coming back in her left foot. Right foot, however, was still sliding, but another week or so and that should be lifting too. Her balance was getting a lot better as well, and she was getting a little bit more confident with each session. So what more could a Fibro guy want, really?
Hi. I was driving to work yesterday and I had a bit of, I think it's the light bulb moment. And it's quite a hard pill to swallow, really, but I think what is clicking in my head is that because I'm in pain, it doesn't mean that I've injured myself. It doesn't mean that if I move more, I'm going to damage myself more. And I hope I'm right. I think that's what Adam is saying, that it's all about how we process it up here. And I need to get over the fear that I'm going to hurt myself more by moving. I'm not. And I think that's what this program, I'm sure, is all about. That mechanically I work. Mechanically, my body is designed to move. My body is designed to withstand weight. My body is designed to take force, to take pressure. And the pain is my brain protecting me. The pain is my brain saying, oh, be careful now, don't do that. Well, actually, my body's designed for it. So I think with this sort of light, I'm going to call it a light bulb moment, I think this is really going to work. I think it's like retraining my brain to say, actually, brain, I can do all of this. And it's all right. I'm not gonna damage myself. I'm not gonna injure myself. And I'm all right. I think that's right. Yeah. It is. It's fitting into place. It's fitting into place in my head. I understand it. I understand how this works now, and it's even more exciting. I can't wait.
So, just finished the session with Courtney. I don't want to say I'm frustrated, because I'm not. I just kind of want. I just need her brain just to click, to kind of go, right, that's how we do it. But again, we've done as much as we can. I've got a couple of tricks left up my sleeve. Can't fault Courtney 100% all the time, which is incredibly difficult for everybody. I mean, anybody, everybody, to be 100% focused all the time. But she's totally dedicated. So her point couldn't be happier with how she is kind of carrying on. But it's kind of a waiting game now. I need that click. It will be pretty quick. It will be literally, I'll see her one day, and the next day she'll come in and boom, pretty much ready to start walking properly. But we just gotta wait for that click, and it's really frustrating the shit out of me. Which is like, it's nobody's fault. It's just something that happens. I need that click. Just waiting for the click, just for everything to just snap in there. I hope that. I think it's like, you can't even gauge it. You don't know when it's gonna come. It's gonna be in the next 2 weeks, pretty certain of that. But it's just kind of wait and see time, and I'm so impatient. It's ridiculously impatient. So yeah, I'm not frustrated, but I want to get on. I need Courtney walking unaided so that we can focus on kind of working and getting into the pain stuff and start getting the pain down and gone. I am impressed though, she hasn't mentioned her kind of headaches or indeed head pressure for quite a long time actually, and she's done pretty much every session has been pretty much an hour of quite intense stuff, which is pretty good considering after about 15-20 seconds the first few times I met her, her head pressure in her head would build up. So I think being upright orthostatic for so long and getting used to it, kind of her blood pressure's kind of getting used to being where it should be instead of constantly being lower because she's sat down constantly. So on that front, pretty happy, but just waiting for that click. Over the next week, we still didn't get a click. However, Courtney did improve in lots of other areas. Her stamina was definitely getting better. She was moving more, and indeed for longer. Her hips were getting relatively stable, and she was even moving in and out of pelvic flexion pretty easily. I decided to cover some drills I wouldn't normally do with people, but I thought it might help her to understand that she has to learn to walk in a very strange way at first, a way that doesn't really feel right at all. But once you master it, with a slight tweak, it allows you to walk properly. We were getting close to that click, and as we hit week 5, we got it. That's it! Click! That is the hard work done now. If Courtney has been climbing up a hill, she's now at the top, and she is ready to get in a sledge and just slide down. Mega happy with that session. As you can see, the stabilization there, fantastic. It's almost a proper actual walk, like a full gait cycle. I just need her to be able to just click a little bit more and to be able to do it herself without holding on. But to be fair, she wasn't really holding on to me or done it a great deal, so she's pretty much there. I think probably by the end of next week, Jeffrey, the 120 kilo tyre, will be going up. As long as we can get a good hinge pattern in at her hips and get her using it properly and she can stabilise on the down, I think it will go up, no bother. Yeah, talk about mental boost, man. Kicking Jeffrey all over the studio is, as far as the Book of Life goes, is a pretty big entry in. So yeah, I'm mega happy with Courtney. That is fantastic progress. She's probably one of the toughest little cookies I've had in here. What a fighter, man. What a fighter. So yeah, pretty happy, as you can see. From now on, the sessions are going to be fast and furious, and she's going to improve really quickly, as in day by day she's going to get considerably, measurably better. So yeah, as far as sessions go, probably the best one. Yeah, really happy. More seconds. 10,
10,
9,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
By week 6, the girls were machines. Eve was pushing through sessions, doing things she never thought possible. She was doing the housework at home and back in wheels without any pain and without fear of fatigue. Her back pain had completely gone, and there was no fear of movement anymore. Eve knew exactly what her body was capable of, and more importantly, that pain didn't equal damage. She was getting a taste of that good old pain-free life. Up. Remember, you throw it up in the air so you can get under it. So right leg goes forward in the clutch. Jesus. Oh. Little Courtney was doing fantastic as well. She even got Jeffrey, the 120 kilo tyre, up without even breaking a sweat. But more importantly, she was walking unaided without the help from anyone, not even her mum. Courtney's walking was still a little bit too mechanical for my liking. It was still a little bit robot-y. She would wobble a bit, and realistically we needed a good 2 weeks of getting used to just walking like this again before we could put the finishing touches on her walking and get it looking completely normal.
Good morning. When I first met Adam, I had in my head a little bit of a target. I wanted to walk around this sort of lake that's local to us, and I thought, well, maybe one day I can do that. And then it occurred to me that midway through the programme, do you know what, I might be able to do it before Christmas. And I said that to Adam last week. So today I've decided I'm going to give it a try. So this is what I'm going to walk around. You can see it. Maybe it doesn't look too big, but it's fairly big. So I've got my husband and our dog with us, and I'm going to give it a go. I had a short practice walk yesterday, so I reckon today I'm going to be able to smash it. So I'll come back to you afterwards. Done it. 2 laps around the park lake that I thought probably wouldn't be till next year till I did that. Stu's really happy. It's been a very long time since we've had a nice walk like that.
Over the next 2 weeks, with a lot more education and movement as our recovery catalyst, Eve made her full recovery. No more pain, no more fatigue, no more stick. I will always be proud of Eve and the effort she's put into her recovery, as she has finished such a hard journey, a journey that most people will never even start. So well done, Eve. You earned your recovery, and may 2019 be the year you enjoy from beginning to end. These last 2 weeks were incredible for Courtney. She'd gone from living in the dining room to now being able to climb the stairs to her old room and was now sleeping in her own bed after nearly a year. I had given her 2 weeks to get used to walking unaided without her mum's help, and now it was time to just tweak it slightly, which really probably only took us about 15 minutes. All that hard work, all that effort, it all paid off as everything just clicked together and she walked. In October I promised a young girl she'd walk again in 8 weeks, and through her hard work and her dedication, and with a little guidance from yours truly, she did exactly that. The truth is, you don't need it to be January 1st to change your life. You can do it at any time. And I hope you're watching at home have enjoyed this. But more importantly, I hope you feel inspired. I hope you feel inspired to change your own life. That's the close of the 2018 volunteer programme. Until next year, my friends, Happy New Year.